To continue our coverage of the Supreme Court's historic decision 5-4, allowing gay marriage in the United States. So we've got Phil Mattingly, our political correspondent. Phil, tell us a little bit more about the political ramifications of this vote. The president's going to be talking at 11, so he's going to be very happy about this. We talked about the Republicans a little bit. What does this do for Democrats in 2016?
This is a coalition that Hillary Clinton has made a very concerted effort to reach out to over the last 6 months. And the coalition, as we've seen, both in this case particularly, and their ability to kind of round up public support and change, in many cases, public support for this, but also in their effort to align with businesses, this coalition of LGBT is extremely effective. They're great at motivating, at organizing, at getting out the vote.
Communicating.
And so for Democrats, it wasn't like this was a difficult issue to begin with, except for this is an issue that will help the candidate, all three of the major ones, Bernie Sanders, Governor Martin O'Malley, and Hillary Clinton, are all on board with this. This allows them to kind of make this a bigger issue. One thing we did already see, I'm on all of Hillary Clinton's fundraising lists and all of her lists and supporter lists in general. She has already sent an email out to gather names and data in support of this. They are using this. They waited all of about 10 minutes to use this as a list-building exercise for their own campaign. And so what you look for them to find areas that motivate their people and motivate their base, and this is certainly one of them, and she's already trying to capitalize on that.
So the analytics team is working overtime right now.
Immediately.
Okay. To what extent is Hillary Clinton a latecomer playing catch-up to the changes in public opinion the way that the president was? I mean, the president, as you mentioned earlier, kind of changed his mind, some might say abruptly, over the last couple of years. Was Hillary Clinton always in support of gay marriage, or did she too kind of take her position more strongly after the tide of public opinion changed?
She took her position more strongly after the tide of public. Look,
so it's that cautious political.
National Democratic politicians were latecomers on this compared to the rest of the party.
Okay.
Right? And the expectation was, if you went back to 2008, and again, this just underscores how fast this has changed. No national Democratic politician in 2008 thought they could win a general election coming out on this issue. And the polling actually backed that up. I don't have it specifically in front of me right now, but they were looking at the time in 2007 and 2008. You're looking at polling where this was not this was an underwater issue. You did not want to touch this. You would talk about the ability for people to love one another, but when it came to marriage, this was a different, possibly civil unions, but when it came to marriage, you kept away from it. That has all changed really in the last 2 years.
I want to show you some comments by at least one of the Republican contenders.
Yep.
You've got Jeb Bush coming out and, well, giving his thoughts.
What you're seeing right now is, one, Republicans on Capitol Hill aren't touching this issue with a 10-foot pole. They are completely silent. But on the campaign, you're seeing how this issue breaks out in the party. With Jeb Bush, quote, "I believe the Supreme Court should have allowed the states to make this decision. I also believe that we should love our neighbor and respect each other, including making those the lifetime commitment." So this is what we talked about beforehand, where Jeb Bush, in this case specifically, is going to try and walk a careful line here. He believes this is a state's decision. This has always been his position on this. However, while I wouldn't identify him as a progressive in any way, shape, or form.
Does this make it easier for him to go to his Republican backers and say, look, it might be a close race for the Republican nomination, but I'm the candidate that can win in a general election?
If you want to dig in underneath the statements, here's what's actually going on here. The establishment area of the Republican Party, the big donors here in Connecticut, in D.C., in Florida, on the coast, in California, of the Republican Party, support same-sex marriage. They were crucial to New York's push on same-sex marriage, right? And so what Jeb Bush has done here is he's figured out a way to say, look, because of my religious beliefs, this isn't something I believe in. However, this is the ruling, this is what the highest court in the land has stated, and I'm going to follow it. And that is something that he believes, if you talk to the Republican establishment, including the dozens that filed a brief in support of this, really high-level folks, a lot of Bush administration folks, this makes a lot of sense. Now, there's the other side of the Republican Party, the side that is playing to religious conservatives, that is playing to evangelicals. That's your Ted Cruz, who, as we mentioned, has a bill in Congress to have a constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriage. Bobby Jindal was out with a very, very strong statement about an assault on religious liberty. That's the other segment of this, and that goes directly in line with religious beliefs, that goes directly in line with being evangelicals, but it also goes into line with the politics that they're trying to play in Iowa.
All right. Phil Mattingly, thank you so much. Fascinating to see how this all shakes out. And, of course, we'll get more reaction from the different Republican presidential candidates in the hours to come following that historic Supreme Court decision.